This podcast is powered by the pros at Paschal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPaschal.com.
Brett, man, happy May, man. How's it going?
Yeah, it feels good to be in the month of May, and I'm glad to see you holding down the fort with Phil jumping out on you again these Thursday travel days.
There's always a window open to jump out of. That's right. Phil's the hardest working man. I guess you pretty hard working too. Phil's always got something going on. Right now, Brett, it's for me, it's an exciting time of sport. I like the Champions League. I like the NBA playoffs. Baseball's getting going. You just had the draft. With the baseball team doing their thing. What kind of has, I like golf as well, what kind of has your attention right now in the sports world?
Well, you're right. There's no shortage of things. And, I'm not even the biggest NBA guy, but it's kind of fun to flip around and catch some of the playoff action here or there. And obviously for me, it's kind of settling into that last series for Arkansas softball at home before their postseason, and then Arkansas baseball has really three huge postseason series before the postseason starts with Kentucky and then Mississippi State and then Texas A&M on the road. So, it's fun. It feels like we shouldn't be nearing the end of these spring seasons that end for the Razorbacks, but we're getting pretty close and kind of getting down to the fun time while the other sports really crank up for baseball and basketball and playoffs and whatnot.
Yeah, baseball's getting going on, and it's kind of weird. It's awesome when you have the number 2 ranked team in the country, but it's like everything is kind of life or death, or everything weighs a little bit more if it doesn't go right, and you're not going to win. You're not going to win every game. That being said, at all three of these teams, Mississippi State, Kentucky, A&M, I think they all have Omaha aspirations still. If Arkansas goes 6-3, is that kind of doable? Do you see? Are you kind of okay? Because you don't want to limp in necessarily to the SEC tournament, to the playoffs, but 6-3, you're kind of feeling good about it.
Well, I take that in a heartbeat. Quite honestly, I think 5-4 would be a pretty good run. We think about 20 wins, Matt, is a really good number in the SEC over 30 games of being worthy of winning an SEC regular season championship. And as much as everybody wants to win a regional and go to Omaha, I think when you start a season, you have to think about conference championship. It's the one thing in front of you before you even have a chance to determine what a postseason might look like. 20 wins last year was enough for Arkansas and Florida to tie. And right now, you could win 5 games and be at 21 and not be an SEC regular season champ. It's been that good with some of the top heavy teams, certainly like Arkansas or A&M or Kentucky, and the fact that the Razorbacks get to go up against 2 of those 3 big teams remaining, and they don't play Tennessee, but 2 of the other 3 teams makes this a lot of fun. And I'm with you that everything feels like it has implications. Will they win the SEC? Will they still be number 1? Could they be number 1? And I have to remind myself to kind of slow down and enjoy it a little bit, because this is really the glory days of Arkansas baseball, and it's hard to imagine a team being as consistently good in this crazy era of college sports that they have been. Yet there's still some anxiety because, there's no guarantee of winning an SEC championship. I do think, regardless of how this plays out, I do think they're pretty much solidified as a top 8 seed, which then would give them a chance to host not just a regional, but a super regional, and a great path then to get to Omaha.
Yeah, I think back. I was talking with Phil earlier before he got out of here, and we were kind of going down the roster about who's somebody who needs to get hot. I think last year with Trey Richardson from TCU, the kid that came in and just crushed us. We couldn't stop him, but he didn't have that type of regular season. But he got hot in the regional, and he said Kendall Diggs, if he could get his bat going. Is there somebody on this roster, on this 9 deep, that are going to be playing that you think, man, if they can get their bat going with this pitching, Arkansas is going to be tough to beat?
I wouldn't argue with Kendall at all. I think the one part that he provides is that what's different about this Arkansas baseball team than past is they just haven't gotten a ton from their outfielders, and it's one of the reasons why Peyton Holt has slipped out there. Normally when you're comprising a lineup and you're thinking about your 5 or top 6 hitters, you might have 2 or 3 of those being outfielders. Usually you're happy just to have defense from the catching or shortstop position, maybe a corner infield. But Arkansas has done it kind of backwards in the sense that they haven't had the big-time production from outfielders. And Kendall's a better player than his numbers would indicate. I don't know if he's been completely healthy or not. But I think you bring up a great point with Richardson of TCU, and I know it's still a painful memory for Arkansas fans. But you can get into the postseason, and you played 85% of your schedule and have somebody kind of step up and just take over. And I don't know who that might be. I still think there's a few candidates. I wouldn't be surprised if there's not another Razorback that would step up. Stovall's been incredible and consistent. So is McLaughlin. I think they've kind of led the way for Arkansas. Holt's been really good as of late. I would love to see kind of a left fielder slash third baseman maybe emerge. But, we say there's time, but there's really not a lot of time left before we get to Hoover and then the regionals.
We were also talking a little bit in the first hour about baseball and cheating, and if it's synonymous, or I don't know if I can say it, synonymous right there. Is that how you say it, Christian? Is that right? And
synonymous?
Yeah, there we go. And to my point, every team I was on, Brett, I do not know of any cheating going on. This is from 7th grade till I finished up my career in Jacksonville. And to my naivete, maybe I just don't think of it and maybe they just didn't tell me. But I've never been on a team that was legitimately that was cheating on purpose, doing something like that. Do you think that's like it's more rampant, or am I naive to think that every team's out there cheating?
Well, I'm with you. I like to think that most aren't, but I do think in this new era that we live in, whether it's the stakes of winning games and coaches keeping $1 million contracts or players or whatever the case may be, maybe it is a little more prevalent. And for a guy who spends a lot of time in Houston, I mean, it's been a story that has been discussed and debated and argued for not just a year or two, but for years, and it still brings up passionate defenders or those that are ripping. I think the one thing I had a conversation, Matt, about the other day about college baseball is that, every time a rule comes up, everybody's trying to figure out how to break it. So you get away from the signs and then you put the watch. Now, apparently there's been some teams that have kind of bent the rules on how do we, if we can't steal a sign, how do we spot what's going on with the watch? Do we use binoculars? Are there some other things that we can do to kind of figure out what teams are doing rather than the old-fashioned way? And there's always a couple of elements of gamesmanship. But if I'm standing out at second base and you're going through a series of signs and I'm smart enough to pick them and get them, that's one thing. But if I'm using binoculars and I'm using television cameras or the technology, to me that's where it crosses the line. And it does feel like in this era of cameras and Rapsodo and TrackMan and all the things that we have available for technology, that there are people trying to figure out ways to cheat. And it's one thing if you can get away with it, but you get caught. You're in today's day and age, there's no mercy in this social media talk radio world we live in.
Yeah, I think when the 20 years ago when you would signal in plays and we had a couple guys, you would watch the three guys that the other team had, talking about football, you would watch them signal in plays, you'd figure out who's hot. And then we had guys that could tell, but pretty easy to tell, okay, that's a run play, that's a pass play, what they're doing. And that's all, to me, in part of the game. You're not sending somebody to videotape somebody's other game and then bringing it back. So I'm with you right there.
Yeah, I think, if you can stand on the sideline and you can pick a side, more power to you. That's part of the game. Where things have changed, it's sending people to videotape signals, and then you can have immediate communication from the press box to the sideline to the field, and maybe people are taking advantage of that and not just doing it the old-fashioned way where I'll give you an attaboy if you can stand on the sidelines and pick somebody's signals out. And when you're going through video and stealing and technology, and then that creates a couple of years ago with Michigan, the funny part, Matt, was the one team they didn't scout with the Connor Stallions thing was TCU.
Right.
And guess what the one team was that kind of ran them off the field? Well, it was TCU. It's amazing when you don't have somebody's signals, how hard it is to kind of beat somebody and play fairly.
Hey, one last thing I'll finish up with you today. I've been kind of looking at it. Now, Phil brought this up a couple months ago about the Jake Paul-Mike Tyson fight, and it kind of, the closer it gets, I'm kind of a little more interested, especially since I heard the rules. There's no headgear, 8 2-minute rounds. Now they're 14-ounce gloves. I'd like for them to be about 8-ounce gloves because then it would be over. But I saw where Jake Paul's the favorite. Now it's 27 years old versus 58-year-old. He's still a heavyweight champ and Tyson, and Jake Paul's kind of a WCW type of guy. What am I to make of this? Do you think this is going to be a real fight? Are you interested at all?
I don't know if it's a real fight, but I'm like you. I would say I'm becoming a little more interested as we get closer. I think to me, and maybe this is because I'm a 50-plus guy, Matt, the age difference maybe intrigues me more than the stylistic differences right now. And, we kind of go back to the glory days of boxing. I think it kind of ended with Mike Tyson for some people. They kind of lost interest in the sport. Well, he kind of gives you something to cling on. But, yeah, you start adding a couple of decades to somebody, I'd be really impressed, if someone in their 20s could take down somebody in their 50s, regardless of how tough they are or how tough they used to be.
BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.